and welcome to the True Ministries podcast. I'm Stacy Echeverria, your host, and with me today, I have a very special guest, Jacob Ostler. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stacy. It's great to have you, or great to
Yeah.
be your show. Great to be.
I'm really excited about the topic that we're going to be speaking on today. And just a little warning to everyone that may be listening, that may be watching today. We will be delving into a very sensitive topic. And if at any time you are feeling triggered, I ask that you stop and that you just step away from it and come back and listen when you're ready. This is not an easy topic that we're going to be talking about today, but it's one that's necessary. So before we get into it, let me share with the audience a little bit about you, Jacob. Jacob Ostler is a founding member of International Protection Alliance, an organization that serves children who have been sexually exploited online. He has an undergraduate degree in psychology and a master's degree in social work with a focus on global practice, as well as a certificate in anti-human trafficking from Vanguard University. Jacob has been working with people who survived sexual violence since 2016. This work has taken place in over 10 countries, focusing on Asia and the US. He has worked with survivors of online sexual exploitation, sexual abuse, human trafficking, child marriage, torture, and other types of violence. Jacob has worked as a therapist domestically and internationally, and has also built care teams consisting of care managers, lawyers, and therapists. He provides training and consultation both domestically and internationally to organizations that work to support survivors. In addition to his work as a therapist, Jacob sits on the board of the Utah Social Work Association. And again, Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It really is great to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we dive in? I know that this is a topic that is huge. In some of the work that I do with regard to sex addiction and betrayal trauma, I started to learn a lot about pornography, and that being the gateway that connects to human trafficking and sex trafficking as well. So this is something that it's not really in the shadows anymore. We're hearing so much about it, but I love that we have organizations like yours that are helping people come out of it and providing the care that they're needing. So let's get into some of the questions that I have for you. So the first question is, what inspired the creation of the International Protection Alliance, and what is its mission in addressing online sexual exploitation?
Yeah. Great question. So International Protection Alliance, we founded in March of 2024. There's 4 of us that founded together, and we make up former law enforcement that were online child crimes investigators, aftercare professional like myself, finance and business, and then like operations and working those kind of scenarios. And so we've been in the space for a long time, and we've known each other for a while, and we decided to put this together and found early last year. So we decided to focus on online sexual exploitation because of how much danger there is in the online space and how many things are moving to an online platform. So much of what we see, from grooming to trafficking to AI-generated abuse videos to sextortion scams to financial scams to recruiting for trafficking, all of this stuff is moving more and more online and becoming more and more present online. And it's not a far away issue. Like, it happens on the same apps everybody uses. It happens on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok. It's not this. People used to think, oh, you have to go to the dark web to access this stuff. It's not. It's on all the sites that our teens use, and it's pushed by algorithms. It's pushed by companies, and it's not hidden. And so we wanted to get involved in this space, do what we could to help make this safe spacer, clean up the space, advocate for good policies, and then to protect kids online, and to find and identify people who are actively exploiting kids online, help law enforcement build cases, and help stop that exploitation.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that there might be some that might think, well, this is a a First Amendment issue, and it isn't a First Amendment issue. It is about protecting children, and that not everything that is out there is actually good. So we're not trying to say you can't do this, you can't say this, you can't do that, but it really comes down to how are we going to protect the children?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
piggybacking on that,
Yeah.
a lot of these companies will call it a First Amendment issue, and that's what they'll
Right.
advocate for, and that's what they
Sure.
push.
Yeah.
And give you examples of ways that it's not.
Hmm.
Like there was, I mean, there's a New York Times article called "The Children of Pornhub," and
Mm.
all about kids that were exploited, and their rape videos ended up on Pornhub. And this
Ugh.
this girl in the article, I think she's 14 or 15, talks about how she contacted Pornhub herself, identified herself as underage, told them that she was being raped in the video. She's screaming no in the video, and they still would not remove it. Like that's not a First Amendment issue. That's consent. That's
Mhm.
child abuse material, which is a federal
Mhm.
crime to have. And
Mhm.
it's monetizing that, distributing that, allowing people to download it. And then
Right.
it happens to adults, like people
Right.
who they're dating or people who they're not get nude images of people, and they share them online and
Yeah.
they put them on places like Facebook. And how do you get those down? How do you do that
Yeah.
yourself? And
Right.
this has a lot more to do with parental rights and
Mhm.
safety and regulation than we do free speech, right? We wouldn't
Right.
allow the sale of drugs on social media and call that free
Right.
speech. We
Right.
wouldn't say, hey, you're selling heroin, which is outlawed federally on Facebook, but that's a free
Right.
speech issue, because it's not.
People are getting hurt. And so when people are getting hurt, that's the focus. It's how are we going to help them? How are we going to stop that from continuing? I know that parents, in this particular space of technology now, I'm not a digital native.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't as prevalent as it is now because there's such easy access. So for parents who may be feeling overwhelmed by the technology, where should they start in protecting their children online?
Yeah, that's honestly, it's a good and it's a complicated question. So
Mhm.
parents often want a one-stop shop of this is what I do to keep my kids safe online.
Mhm.
It's much more similar to a kid getting a driver's license than it is sending a kid to the grocery store. Like
Yeah.
you can teach a kid how to drive, how to do their blinker, tell them to avoid bad stuff while they're driving, not to go down certain roads, not to text and drive. But at the
Right.
end of the day, like if the semi truck next to him loses control and hits him, like
Right.
there's not something you're going to teach your kid that's going to protect them from that.
Right.
And there's a certain amount of risk that you give when your 16-year-old gets in a car and drives down the road.
True.
The online space is much more similar to that than it is how do I just keep my kids safe? It's a lot more of teaching literacy, it's teaching boundaries, having
Mhm.
conversations with your kids around what do you do if somebody DMs you or scams you or you do something online? What can you talk to me about?
Right.
How if your kid does something, do they know they can talk to you? Because if you
Right.
have a predator in their ear online, that
Mhm.
predator is going to tell them that they can't. And that's the only voice they're going to have. They're not going to have you if you haven't already talked about it. And
Mhm.
you're not going to keep up with your kids on technology. Like
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
teens, young adults, like they're flying through new apps. Technology is constantly changing. What we can and can't do with tech is constantly changing.
Right.
There's apps developed for all sorts of purposes. And
Yeah.
to ask parents to know everything about all those apps is
Mhm.
an unrealistic expectation to set on
Yeah.
parents. Like
Yeah. I agree.
it's just too much. And so I focus a lot more on, if you are going to let your kid drive, if you're giving your kid a smartphone and they're jumping on social media and they have Facebook accounts and they have other accounts that they might not have told you about,
Yeah.
how do you have
Yeah.
conversations about it? Like the
Right.
same you would if like, hey, you're at a party and if there's underage drinking or you get in trouble or your boyfriend
Mhm.
does, you can call me and I'll come and
Right.
pick you up, no questions asked. Like they
Right.
need to know that the parent's willing to do that if something happens online. And then we
Right.
talk about boundaries, which boundaries are behavioral expectations, they're rules we set for ourselves. When we're talking to our kids, what boundaries do we set online? Like
Mhm.
not meeting up with strangers, not sending
Mhm.
nude images of yourself,
Mhm.
not giving out your home address, making your
Mhm.
private. How
Mhm.
do we, like, what boundaries do we set? And
Mhm.
they're not going to be the same for every kid and every family, the
Right.
same way like some 16-year-olds are great drivers and some are not, right? And
Right.
kids mature and age and do all those things differently. And
Sure.
some, if they're on Facebook at 16, will have a lot harder of a time than
Yeah.
others.
Yeah, I also think about too, because I have resources for parents and starting the conversation around, obviously around the pornography stuff, which this is just a straight line to the trafficking as well. But yeah, we can have all the technology that has all of the safety controls, the parental controls, the dumb phones, this, that, and the other. But here's the problem too, is that when they're at school and they're with their friends who don't have those types of phones, who has access to everything. It's one thing to protect your kids when they're at home, but when they leave, they've got friends where they can access this stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So then I like that we got into the next question that I was going to ask, and that was those boundaries and having those conversations. And I firmly believe that it really does start with having the conversation and being a safe place where your kids can land, where they can share with you whatever it is that they've come in contact with, that they're not going to be in trouble, but having those conversations so that they can have understanding, and then practical steps that they can take and be able to stand up to and say no to maybe their friends, their peers that are doing these things. So, how would you recommend that parents begin having that conversation, right? And of course, how young,
Yeah.
at what age do we start having those conversations with with kids?
Yeah. So age-wise, I always recommend it before they're online, right?
Mm. Hmm.
You don't tell kids only about the dangers of driving on the day they get their driver's license.
Right.
And I use that analogy because I think it's good.
Uh-huh.
And it also shows the amount of risk that can happen. Like kids end up taking their lives because of stuff that happens to them online. Like it
Yeah.
really is
Yeah.
a life-threatening issue. And
Yeah.
when I'm talking to parents or teens or
Hmm.
encouraging to discuss together, we usually start at a conceptual basis of talking about safety versus autonomy. And they're inherently conflicting values. When you look at yourself in a car, have your seatbelt off, you can reach further, you can move more, you can stand up, you can reach behind you, you can move way more. You
Sure.
are less safe than if you're wearing a seatbelt. If you put on your seatbelt, you're more likely to survive an accident. You're more
Hmm.
likely to stay safe. You
Hmm.
cannot move as much. You are not
Right.
always as comfortable. You can't
Right.
reach everything that sometimes you need to reach. Sometimes you take off the seatbelt and reach across and do something and put your seatbelt back on. Those are those are things that we see. And
Hmm.
so what is the online equivalent of wearing your seatbelt? What are the things you want to encourage your kids to do? What are the risks that they are taking that you're okay with? And how do we help our kids that when they're driving be safe, right? The goal is
Hmm.
that we raise kids that become independent, not that we
Right.
have kids that throughout their adult life are relying on us still for everything, right? Like there should be an age where your kid is now navigating the digital world themselves.
Yeah.
That so those that's where we talk and where we
Hmm.
start, and
Hmm.
then we'll go through like in the kids' mind. What is the equivalent of wearing your seatbelt? What are the things that keep you safe? What do you see as the risks? If
Hmm.
they don't know the risks, teaching them like, hey, these are real stories. These are real things that happen. Not just
Hmm.
hey, social media is scary and it's
Right.
bad, but like
Right.
real practical skills of like these are the ways that people groom kids online. This is how people use AI to make themselves look like a 15-year-old girl and they flirt with you and how
Right.
they get you to send them money and
Yeah.
pictures and then they blackmail you. Like
Right.
to go down that example, there's a thing called sextortion, which
Hmm.
it's essentially a scam where people do just that. They often pose as young women. They DM boys that are like 11 to 17 is primarily who they're focusing on.
Okay.
They flirt with them, get the boy to send a nude image, or they
Mm.
AI to generate a nude image of the boy, and they blackmail that boy. And they say, I'm going to send it to your school. I'm going to send it to your parents, to all of these groups, and they make threads where they send screenshots and show that they really have the numbers and the email addresses and all these things. And then
Yeah.
talk about how they tell the boy, you're going to get rejected, they're going to hate you, like this
Hmm.
is going to ruin your life unless you send
Yeah.
me like $100, $200.
Right.
And
Right.
they demand it and they push for it. And then
Hmm.
if they don't send it, they often encourage the boy to kill themselves. And they tell them
Ugh. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
We had a case in Utah that the time from the first DM to
Hmm.
suicide was under 5 hours.
Wow.
There's been cases reported under 2 hours. And
Mm.
it's not boys that have a lot of mental health issues that you would recognize as, oh, they've tried to take their life before. It's not
Sure.
like this is why it has to be an education and prevention issue.
Hmm.
That kid's not going to show up in my therapy office. That kid's not like that boy that I mentioned, the first one, took his life while his parents were downstairs. Like the whole event happened while he was just in his room. They never knew.
Yes.
It's and if you are not in your kid's ear and that
Yeah.
person's the only person in their kid's ear,
Yeah.
then that's it. And
Hmm.
they make aged accounts, which means they purchase or blackmail others and then adopt their account so the account age is really old. So it'll look like,
Mm.
oh, the account's been active for 2 years. It's not new. Uh,
Okay.
they do things like that.
Okay.
They send photos of themselves looking like teenage girls, which you can do with AI now really easily. It used to be
Oh,
a
I
lot.
know.
Um,
Yeah.
they will often send friend requests to a ton of your friends so that there's a lot of mutual friends, so they have a good cover story. Like they
Wow.
look up your neighborhood and talk about what like places they know. Like they sound really, really real.
Mm.
And this is where we put our kids if our kids are online.
Yeah.
And like we need to have a conversation that's not like, hey, not just like if you've ever seen pornography, but hey, if you send a nude image and get into a bad spot, you
Yeah.
can still talk to me. I am still on your team.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
have like that needs to be in our list of things we tell our kids when we get
Hmm.
a phone and a camera at a time
Hmm.
where developmentally this is what they're exploring.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
teenagers are beginning to understand and want and think about sexual things. And
Yeah.
we're giving them tech, access to the world, access to tons of people, cameras,
Hmm.
apps that
Hmm.
say they're anonymous, and all this stuff. Like these
Right.
have to be conversations that we have.
Right. Right.
Um, that's where I tell parents usually to start is things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is all great stuff. But I also think too, what I've seen and what is a concern is I understand on social media with parents who post pictures of their kids
Yeah.
and taking them to school, and well, now we know where the school's at, we know the city that they're living in, and I understand about sharing about your kids with family and friends and all of that. And again, this isn't about, oh my gosh, we have to all live in a bubble because that's just not realistic. What would you say to those parents that are doing that because they are exposing their children to God knows who
Hmm.
on social media? This is the world we're living in currently, where the predators are out there. We've got registered sex offenders in the neighborhood. I get those alerts, but I'm an adult, so I know how to deal with that. But with kids, they don't. And so how would you address that whole thing with social media and sharing, and what are some things that parents can do to protect their kids a little bit more
Yeah.
on their own end and not putting out all those pictures? Or and I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but how can they go about it in a way that isn't endangering their children? And they're doing it unintentionally, obviously. I'm not saying they're doing it intentionally because they don't know. But how can they do that in a way that still protects their kids?
Yeah. I would say I'd look at this as two categories. One is parents who use their kids while they're influencers, and then parents who are
Mm,
on more of a private account or a personal
got
account. Because I think
okay.
it's a little different. In the parents who are influencer spaces, it's a lot more dangerous.
Mhm.
There was I think it was a Washington Post article that talked about the dark side of child influencing and
Mhm.
talks about a lot of these parents who have kids that post videos of them and um, like they just have young kids and their primary focus on their social media, on their TikToks, on things like that, a lot of them have follower demographics where males are over 80%, like where it's like adult men who are clearly following them to look at their kids. They get comments, they get DMs. It's super, like, it's not a hidden issue. If you go on TikTok and look at a lot of these accounts and scroll through comments, you can see open comments where people make sexually explicit comments about kids. And those accounts are allowed to. They're usually not filtered. It's usually not removed.
Wow.
It happens too much.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a lot of danger to their kids by just creating a massive digital footprint for their kids.
Yeah.
Because people download the screenshot, and like there was a guy arrested here in Utah 2 months ago, I think 2 months ago, for he was pulling kids pictures off of social media and then using AI to create, the technical term is CSAM, which means child sexual abuse material. It used to be called child pornography. The industry's kind of changed the name because when people think of pornography, they often have an idea of either it's consensual, it's glorified, people have seen it, but often what's happening in these images and videos is not that at all. It's kid, and there's never consent because it's children.
Correct.
This man was arrested for using AI to make CSAM of kids that he was pulling off of Facebook, Instagram, like social media sites. And that's not an isolated incident. And so this is where the shift to the private parent page is one who has access. Like, does everyone who have access to that? My rule is if you don't have my phone number, you don't follow me on Instagram. If you don't know me well enough to text me and meet up for lunch, and it's not weird, then you don't follow me on Instagram. When we look at things like that, when you're posting your kids, when you're sharing your kid, there's safety and autonomy. Yeah. And the benefit is other people in your life love to see your family. They love to see you growing. They love to know what's going on. They can celebrate you. It's a very low effort way to update a lot of people.
Sure.
It can be really community building. On the other hand, it can be the opposite.
Yeah.
And you can have people in your followers that you might not know or that you do know that still take those images and do things with them. And that's a risk, right? And you look at this versus like an offline issue is, babysitters. Like, let babysit your kid. Do your kid do sleepovers or not? Do they go on campouts or not? What activities do they go to? What aren't they allowed to? What adults do you let be alone with your kid? Like, these are like, there's every situation our kids are in, because they're kids, they have less power in the situation than adults would. And an online platform it's a risky place to put your kids. It can also be all the other good things that I mentioned and other good things. And so I tell parents, rather than try and give them a hard and fast rule, I tell parents, you should understand the risk and go into it with your eyes wide open. But if it's a decision you make, like, you can always switch later. You can always change. You can always remove stuff from your site. You can remove it from other people's devices. So if someone took it, downloaded it, screenshot it, they'll have it. But when you're figuring out what you want to do with your kids online, those are rules I look at as definitely don't use your kids in the influencing space. Like, I would always oppose that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I recently saw that there's going to be a reality show about a kid influencer and their parents. And I used to work in the entertainment industry. And when I worked on films where I was on a film called Dennis the Menace 2, and all these kids, coming in, and some of the parents, I'm just going, oh, this is really more for the parents than it is for the kid. And the kids were miserable. But I like what you said, that okay, so you make this decision, but you can always change your mind later and do things differently. And I think that's wise. I also think that every family is different, as you said, right? Everyone is different. And so what's going to work for your family? I remember seeing a film called The Social Dilemma. And I have to tell you, I knew more about what goes on behind the scenes with Facebook and Twitter at the time, now X, and with the algorithms and how people are manipulated, right? And I think we need to be really careful about that there, the platform in and of itself is not bad. But when people use it for bad, there's going to be a problem with all
Mhm.
of them, right? Whether it's, and I'm not on TikTok, I'm not on Snapchat or any of those. I'm on Facebook reluctantly, but that's another reason why I'm on there. There's a particular reason why I'm on there, but I'm like on there reluctantly. I find it to be very isolating in one respect. And yet I'm able to meet a bunch of different people that I wouldn't be able to meet in any other way, because you're in Utah and I'm in California, and here we are having this
Yeah.
conversation. And I think that's great, but we're adults as well. And so with kids, when you think about how the brain develops and how long it gets to your prefrontal cortex, it's not until they're adults, like 25, even I'm hearing by 30, right? So that executive decision making, that part of the brain is the last to develop. And so when we start exposing kids to grown up platforms and grown up situations when they're not yet fully developed in their brains yet, I think we really need to take a look at that and see what are they going to be ready for and have those conversations. Like you said, I truly believe that it does start with having an open dialogue with your kids. I grew up in a household where none of that happened, but I also was not raised in the digital age either. There were other things that were going on when I was growing up. Right now, there's a lot more access and a lot more exposure, and it's a lot more dangerous today than it was when I was growing up. It's just different. It just looks different. I also think about parents that maybe they haven't started having the conversations and they haven't really started thinking about it. So, what is one piece of encouragement you would give to parents that feel like they did miss it
Yeah.
or are starting too late, in the digital safety conversation?
Yeah. I, in most cases, I don't think you could really say it's too late. Like, even I work with
Okay.
parents who we start this conversation after their kid has been exploited online. Like, we're talking about it well after the fact, after someone DM'd them, met them, groomed them, and abused them in person. Like, I work with
Yeah.
parents who are in that situation.
Okay.
It's not too late.
Okay.
It's just figuring out when. And as long as
Mm,
you're in your kid's life,
you're right.
it's okay to open these doors and open up these conversations. Like, there's not a, well, darn it, this happens now it's too late. Like,
Right.
as long as your kid's here and you have a relationship with your child, you can
Hmm.
talk to them. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. I love that. That's really, really good. I know that we have a lot more to talk about, and I'm excited for part two. So we've taken it to this level of, the parents and the kids and the family. And in part two, we're going to look at it globally, because this is not just in your town or in your family, but it is global.
Hmm.
Because of the access and all the things that are going on. But before we start wrapping up, um, would you please let us know how people can get in touch with you if they want to talk with you about this, if they want some more information? Would love for them to know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So our website is protectall.org, and the best email is iwanttohelp@protectall.org. If you shoot us an email, let them know you listen to this podcast and ask to connect. I can get on a call with you, or someone from my team if they're a better fit, and then
Mhm,
we can go from there. But we do
mhm,
community groups, and we meet with parents. We've done schools.
mhm,
I'm speaking at a conference related to suicide later,
mhm.
and actually next week. And so those are all things that we do. And if you want to get involved, understand more about the issue, anything we can provide, let us know, because
Mhm,
we want to help, and
mhm.
that's why our organization yeah, that's why our organization exists, is to help
Yeah,
people navigate this space. That's why we founded.
right.
It's what we want to do, and it's what we're here doing.
That's fantastic. And then do you also have a group, right? Or do you also help organizations or businesses that may have a group that would like to learn more about keeping children safe online, do you go out to where they're located and meet and provide training? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've done that. And we're available to do corporate events, like basically any kind of group that wants this. We
Mm-hmm.
we provided training to everything from law enforcement and government agencies to corporations to neighborhood groups to teens, and we adjust the training for our audience, right? 'Cause
Okay.
I'd focus on something different with a therapist than I would a medical practitioner or an investigator or a parent.
Right.
And so we absolutely do that.
Okay. Do you
Yes.
go yeah, do you go into schools as well? Do you help kids and teens maybe understand what might be happening if they're online and something isn't feeling right? Do you help with that at all? Do you do that
Yeah.
kind of training too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We talk about, talking to a trusted adult,
Hmm.
trusting your intuition. One of the things I always talk about is if things are uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Often when things are uncomfortable, we want to look away and not get involved. But if something's uncomfortable, I'd zoom in on that emotionally and say, why am I uncomfortable?
Uh-huh.
If someone did this to me in person,
Yeah.
would I be comfortable with this? And
Right.
what do I
Right.
do with this? What are the
Right.
next steps? How do we
Right.
talk? Like I consulted on an education curriculum here in Utah, and we outlined reporting structures for talking to trusted adults, identifying trusted adults, when to help your friend talk to an adult, like what kind of stuff should you talk about, what kind of stuff like is red flags, all that. That's stuff we.
Hmm. Okay, wonderful. And I know that in December, as we come to the end of the year and the end of the fourth quarter, your organization is a nonprofit, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So is there a way that people can donate to your organization to help you guys keep doing what you're doing?
Absolutely. And honestly, like it's probably the most helpful thing people do is help with finances. It allows us to support the survivors we do. It keeps our
Hmm.
mission running. It allows us to do a lot of the training and conferences we do at no cost. That's
Right.
all from people, foundations, corporations that step up and say, this is a cause I believe in,
Yeah.
and I'm trusting you with our money. And that's honestly, it's a really humbling experience to have people do that and to say,
Yeah.
they're giving us their money because we're a nonprofit. We don't exist unless people do that. And
Hmm.
it's incredible. So our website, there's a donate button. We're also on Venmo. Um, and we've done like corporate lunch and learns. We've had corporations do matching grants where they say, hey, for this amount of time, we're going to match every donation up to this amount. We've
Hmm.
had corporations do internal fundraisers or a portion of sales of proceeds, different
Yeah.
things like that. We're in discussions right now with some corporations to do roundup campaigns at checkout, just different
Oh,
things like that,
yeah. Yeah.
that are just everything like that makes a massive difference for us.
Oh,
Um,
that's wonderful.
It
Yeah.
really does. And so
Yeah.
if you ever want to get involved in that way, and feel free to do it on your own, but if you want to talk to me about it and learn more
Mhm.
about where the money's going, what we're currently fundraising for, all of those kind of things, please let me know.
Yeah, you have a great organization, and I would highly encourage those of you that have it on your heart to donate to the work that Jacob and his team are doing. Do it. You won't be sorry. You're going to help protect the kids, and you're going to help provide resources also for parents to understand all of this, and just the kids are our future. So let's help them thrive in a world that is safe. So, Jacob, it was really wonderful having you on the show. I know we're coming back for part two. And so, before we close out, I always like asking this question at the end of every episode, and that is to my audience, whether you know the Lord or if you don't know the Lord, Do you know where you're spending eternity? And if you don't, I would love to have a conversation with you. Maybe you're thinking about, well, what does it mean to accept Jesus Christ as my personal savior? It's not really that hard. So reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. You can go to my website at trueministries.com, click on that free consultation button, schedule a free consultation with me, and let's have a conversation. So thank you again, Jacob, for being here. And to all of you that have been watching and listening, remember to please follow, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who may need to know what we've shared today. And again, thank you all. And I pray that the Lord would bless you.